What is going on, comic fam? It is your boy, the bearded comic bro, and I am back for another creator interview. And I have with me tonight comic creator Travis Gibb. Welcome to the show, man.
How it's glad to be here, man. Or I'm glad to be here. That's what I mean.
Right? I'm. It's.
Right.
I feel like.
It is, and I am all together here with you. Because recently, for those who follow me or Bearded, we're best friends. So
We
if you
are.
haven't been paying attention to our Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff, we're best friends. So
And I think people are jealous, but I'm hesitant that I bring you on the show because just off the first bat here, like, are you a comic book writer? Because you're seeming to have a little bit of trouble with words here.
right. Well, I like to write them down. I don't like to speak them. But
That
if you've ever seen my grammar on any of my Insta stuff, I'm not really good at that either. I
no,
just
I'm not. I'm not. I always make the joke. I'm like, if I send out an email for work and it actually sounds like someone intelligent wrote it, that's because my wife proofread it. But man, I am excited to have you on the show. Like you said, we've been hanging out on social media
yeah,
and in discords and just talking. And we've been saying for the longest time, like, when you have a new Kickstarter coming out, I've got to have you on the show. And so, voila, you've got a new Kickstarter. But if people don't know your work, Travis, you are the writer behind Broke Down and Four Dead Bodies. You're writing on Voodoo Nations. You
right.
are the brains behind Cthulhu Invades Oz. Like, you have a lot in your repertoire. And before we hop into your new Kickstarter and stuff like
Sure.
that, I just want to know, how did you get into creating comics?
Well, for me, and it's funny because you have the Ninja Turtles behind you. I'm from Rochester, New Hampshire, which is right next to Dover, which is where the Ninja Turtles came from. So growing up, and I'm of that age, I may look young, but I'm in the 40s. So they were there, like signing and doing things, and it was kind of the way of life. So, like, I kind of knew these guys. So indie comics, it was never intimidating to me, right? Like, I knew
Right.
that that was a thing. Marvel and DC wasn't necessarily what I talked to, even before the cartoons and it blew up, because it was a local thing. We knew it. Hey, these guys did good, and they're making money somehow. So I always kind of wanted to be in comics. It was my dream. I wanted to go into film and then fall back into comics, be hopefully courted. But I went to a convention one day and I saw a book called Government Bodies. It's an old book. It only did 3 issues, never even finished its run, but it was done by a guy named Stefan Nielsen, who was the marketing director till literally COVID hit for Aftershock. And he gave me a shot, and he said, "Hey, you said you're in film and you're doing film scripts. You want to do a 4-pager in the back of my comic?" And I was like, "That'd be awesome." So I did that, and then I went nuts. I submitted to a whole bunch of anthologies and did a whole bunch of stuff, and I had that bug and did it for a while until I got someone pregnant, and then I took a break. Like you do, like you do.
That's the normal route.
Right. Yeah, well, ask anybody, Bendis, any of them. They're like, got someone pregnant, stop for a little bit. It's fine.
But now I'm back on. I'm back to writing.
Everything's kosher.
Um, well, your last Kickstarter you did was Cthulhu Invades Oz. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So, real quick, talk to me about this book because it is beautiful. I mean,
Oh, you got your copy. Look at
oh,
that.
I did the other day, and I'm not gonna lie. I saw the package. I saw who it was from. I'm like, ooh, what did my buddy Travis send me? I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I ordered his book.
Well, yeah, because I'd offered to send you the broke down, and you're like, no, I invest in creators, which is a great thing, and it's a great philosophy to have. And I
Yep.
really appreciate that. But yeah, Cthulhu Invades Oz. Basically, I had the idea. My wife said, when I was doing broke down, I was looking at all the Kickstarters because I'm a marketer, so my numbers in like processing that stuff. So I look at it from a business perspective and a creative perspective. So broke down, anybody who knows anything about comics, crime is not the way to start. Crime is like the lowest selling on any company's repertoire, right? Criminal doesn't sell a lot of copies. It sells a lot for being a crime book, but not a lot. Stray
Right.
Bullets never sold a lot of copies. 100 Bullets sold a decent amount of copies, but compared to Y, it's not doing that great. Y Fables trumped it. Um, So I looked at it. My wife was like, "What do you think would be really sellable?" I was like, "Well, the two things that are really, really popular on Kickstarter are zombies, Wizard of Oz, and Cthulhu. Those three things they tend to do really well, and nudity and boobies. So boobies were out for me. That's not my jam. Zombies are not for me. But I was like, Cthulhu and Oz. I think that would be a fun little thing. So I decided to put it together after I had a couple successful Kickstarters, and I literally asked every friend who I knew who was above me, like, you're at Scout, you're at Sourcewell, you're at Mad Cave. I'm asking you to be in my book, and all of them said yes. And I was like, oh crap, I have this cool book. So that over the process of a year, we decided to put it together. But one of the things that I come from a role playing background. I used to run large LARPs, if you know what live action role playing is, Werewolf and for World of Darkness. So I'm really good at taking people's stories and putting them together. So I decided that if I'm going to do an anthology, it's not going to be like a normal anthology. It's going to be one narrative. So there's a beginning, middle, and end to Cthulhu Invades Oz. And I could do that without really affecting people's story. I just got to tell them, hey, here's where we're at. Here's where we're going. Tell me where your story fits so I can put it in. So we allow that to play out. And it was super fun and super successful. We raised over $25,000, crazy amounts of money. I'm still fulfilling, which is never me. I never go live with fulfilling, but I wanted to go live with Brokedown in January. But this book it's just so much. I mean, I had 5 editors going through it and figuring it out. So the minute I hit 70% and Kickstarter said I was good, I was like, all right, we're good. But yeah, and we're rocking and rolling in Cthulhu Invades Wonderland.
Is there's future Cthulhu anthologies then?
Yes, yes. There's at least going to be one more, and I'll keep doing them as because we've got an idea for a few. I've got an idea for the one after this, and then I want to return to some of these places at some
Okay.
point. But there's one story narrative. So Cthulhu Invades Oz. The things that happen in that book affect Cthulhu Invades Wonderland. It is one narrative, ominous, for lack of a better word. But yes, yeah, Cthulhu Invade Wonderland is a sequel. I just got the cover minutes ago to look it up. You want to see it? You want to see it?
I
Like, you
mean,
want to do that? Let's do that. Why not? We're here,
yeah,
right? We're friends. We can
we're,
do this.
I mean, it might as well.
I mean, it's my book. I mean, I could do it. And just so you guys know, I tend to not show these until it has trade dress and stuff. So you guys are literally getting it minutes after I saw it. But let's do it.
Let's,
Like I said, Beard is my bro, so I've got to share something.
you gotta have the exclusive.
Right? We got to have the exclusive. So I'll let that load up in the background. My internet is slow as hell today for me.
Man, no worries at all. But you are right. Like this is a who's who that you got into this book. I mean, you got Brian Silverbacks, you had Stoney Williams, Jonathan Hedrick, like David Pebos right in the intro. Like you have talented friends.
Yeah. I got really lucky with a lot of them, right? So, like for instance, Stoney Williams is fantastic. I had no idea how fantastic he was, and he's a colorist on the book. Like if I knew he was a writer, he wouldn't be a colorist in the book. Um, um, so that's one of the things that was really interesting. Jonathan Hendricks, luckily he lives in my local town, but I had no idea that Recount was going to be hit. In fact, when he was actually the guy who I was throwing a bone to. He had one little one shot. That's all he had. And I was like, come on, buddy. Why don't you come on in here? And he pitched Tin Man, and he pitched against John Crother. Do you know who John Crother is?
I don't.
So John Crother does all the wrestling comic books. If you ever read like any of the little wrestling comic books that you may have seen, he also works for Antarctic Press. So he came in and he was supposed to do the Tin Man. He actually did a different story instead. But when Jonathan Hendricks wrote the story, he was like, "That story's good enough. You don't need me," and like gave him like the attaboy.
Nice.
So that's really really cool. I think I'm ready to bring this up though. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see if we can do this real quick.
Let's see what it is. Gang exclusive. Look at this.
Can you see it good?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That
Yeah,
is
that is a beautiful. That is done by the same guy who did the glow in the dark cover that most people have. It is a beautiful, beautiful cover. So that's one of the covers that we'll have. We'll have more as we go. But yeah, this is without the trade dress. Most people, in fact, if you're not watching this, you're probably not going to see this for several months,
Wow.
unless you're in my know. I don't tend to share things so early, but like Beard's my boy, so
Hey, and you got to people got to get excited about that. That's so
right,
cool.
right. So yeah, that's the stuff we're rocking and rolling. I'm getting emails and all sorts of stuff all the time for all the cool things that are coming.
So I know getting everyone together and doing an anthology, it's got to be a lot more time consuming than just your individual issue that we're going to talk about here in a bit. How much longer of a process is it for you when you're doing a Kickstarter like a Cthulhu Kickstarter compared to a Kickstarter for like an issue for Broke Down and Four Dead
It's
Bodies?
it's a year.
Okay.
So it's a year of development for the anthology, just because various times and various stuff. And when you get these talents, they have deadlines too. They may have a scout deadline or a source point deadline. So I've got to semi work around their schedule.
Right.
We do have to get the book done, so they have to work around mine as well. But for deadlines, and even especially the next ones, we have Carl Moline, who does a lot of work for Marvel and DC. We have Stan Yak, who very famously known right now for his Ninja Turtles cover. It's the highest ranking Ninja Turtles cover. He's doing my story on that. So getting these next level people, we got to do a lot of stuff, and then we got a lot of Action Lab guys, and they have very tight schedules over there.
Yeah.
The other thing that's different, broke down because I'm kind of know it. I can kind of go nuts and go live whenever I want to. Where a Cthulhu Invades OZ, it's a big cash dump, right? To invest in that,
Yeah.
the minimum you could have paid was 25. Most people paid 30 plus for their book. You need to prepare people.
Right.
They know a graphic novel. They know it's going to cost them a little bit. They know it's going to cost them a little bit more than buying a graphic novel at the comic store. So we got to make sure that they're aware of it. So you got to give them a couple of months lead time for prep of just talking about it and getting things going. So yeah, it takes about a year to get it in and out.
Yeah, it makes sense because if, like you said, I the minimum like $25 or something for this, I don't think twice about it because I mean it's a thick graphic novel, but if you're just like, oh hey, I'm flipping through, like it's a big purchase, on the spur of a moment. So it makes sense to prep
Yeah,
people and let them have that time to process and invest in it, make sure it's something that they really want.
and it's something special, right? So
Yep.
it's got to be something special. One of the things that I noticed when we started doing the press junket for it and really talking about it is for a lot of these guys, let's be honest, Marvel and DC only pick one or two new people a year, really. They may give
Yeah.
you a 4 page or 1 page, but really to get to that next level, a lot of these people, this is the first time and only time we're ever going to be able to work with quote unquote licensed characters, right?
Yeah.
Characters that you grew up with your whole life, you are now getting to tell a story in that universe. And there's something special and there's something unique about that. And I really want to make sure that not only is the writer aware of it, but the people who are doing it are aware of it, and that we're taking the time. Because we've got to make sure we got to go through it to be able to use Oz in Cthulhu. I need to make sure that it doesn't. It's in the book continuity, not the movie. I can't use Ruby Slippers, for instance, for Dorothy. I've got to make sure all those things line up because I don't want to be sued.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't even think about that. That's crazy to think about that process and what you have to go through with that. Man. So if someone just I'm just curious, if someone's watching this and they missed out on Cthulhu, are there options, ways that they can still go about it? I know you said you're still fulfilling those.
Yeah, yeah, you can go on Indiegogo and you can get it. You can't get that cool glow in the dark cover that you have.
Okay.
You can't get that, but you can get the hardcover. You get the retail cover. You get the. There's actually one that's the glow in the dark without the glow in the dark, so it's got just the good art. So you can get any of those versions. Yeah, on the Indiegogo, and happy to sign them. Happy to get all that taken care of.
Nice. And also I'll have links in the description of this video of all the stuff we're talking about, the Indiegogo, the Kickstarters, and everything like that. So if anything strikes your fancy as you're watching this or listening to this on the podcast, by all means check the description and you can find where you can follow those and get those for sure. So Travis, let's talk why we're here. You are
Yeah.
in the middle of a Kickstarter right now. We beat around the bush. You're a busy man, obviously, but
Right.
Broke Down in Four Dead Bodies. This is your Kickstarter for issue 4. So it's a 4 issue series, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We did one. I did two. I did three. Time for four.
So
Uh,
what is Broke Down about? Because I came into it late. I came into it after checking out Cthulhu Invades OZ. So I know there are people like me who are going to hear this and are like, well, I don't want to hop into a Kickstarter, on issue 4. And I know we'll talk about rewards and stuff, but about how they can catch up. But what's it about? What's the premise of this?
Yeah, well, and I think you're not alone. I mean, we gained, my normal backers was closer to 200 and it went up to like 600. So I think there's a lot of people who are going to be checking out Broke Down for the first time this time. And it's funny that you're coming at the end. So this is the end of the story. This completes the run. Broke Down in 4 Dead Bodies. What it's about is about two guys break down on the side of the road. They have a case that they're supposed to be delivering, but everybody's after them and after this case, whatever's in it. So we've got the mob after them. We've got a biker gang. We've got a Mexican gang. We've got straight mobsters, and we've got police. All of them trying to kill these guys. Lots of guns, lots of F words. It's like a Quentin Tarantino movie. It's kind of told in a perspective with flashbacks and all sorts of things to build you into it. So it's really getting back to crime. When I looked at Marvel and DC, or even Brubaker's stuff, or even the 100 Volts that we talked about earlier, they always add an extra element, right? It's either this is 100 Bullets. It was some CIA secret agent that they're killing for all these things, even though they're untraceable. It's because of this, this, and this. Or Criminal, like he's always got that like Cthulhu or like that murder mystery thing in the background. There's never straight crime anymore. So I wanted to do straight crime. For those who are huge indie fans, if you guys ever read Stray Bullets, the first issue ends where the mentally handicapped guy kills a whole bunch of people, and the car is there, broke down on the side of the road, and he's walking away from it. And basically, that was the inspiration for this book. I was like, what happens if you had a bunch of dead bodies and you break down? What does that look like? How do you resolve that situation? And that's the story I wanted to tell.
So the premise is fantastic, and I've gotten to read this series, and I'm telling you, if you have not checked this out, gang, like this is a Kickstarter you want to invest in. So I think the people are watching or listening, they hear the elevator pitch and they're not sold. I don't know why you're watching my channel. Like, come on, like
Well, let me sell them one more time then.
so
Here's the difference that you'll get from me versus another Kickstarter or another comic. Every one of these issues is at least 30 pages. This last one's 40 pages, but the first one was 30, second one was 28, second one was 25, third one was 28. Like that's a lot of content, and that's story. That's not like extra stuff. And this one's 40 pages. So also content, you're getting a lot of content. It's 119 pages of story in the Broke Down universe. So you're getting basically a 5-issue miniseries for the price of 4.
I mean, you can't beat that, gang.
Right?
So Kickstarter is live right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna hop on. They could do it during this interview, but wait till afterwards, or pull up another window. But listen to the rest of this interview. But if they go to the Kickstarter, I know a big thing about Kickstarter is rewarding fans and backers because they're investing in something that they really don't get to look at too much. They don't get to have that and feel and see, like, is this something I want in the shop? They're going in blind for the most part rather than what they see in previews. And so I know rewards are a big thing, and tiers and stuff like that. So what are some tiers that you are offering that you're like, this would be really cool to highlight?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm known for my. So one of the things I'm known for. So just to prepare people, I'm known for my stretch goals. First stretch goal, you got what was it? Air freshener. A really cool air freshener. Kind of fits the theme of Broke Down and 4 Dead Bodies. Second one, you got a bumper sticker. Second one, you got a bumper sticker. Third one, you got a keychain. So there's something car related coming for the stretch goal. So hopefully we'll get there and you'll get something cool stretch goal related. I always also bring one of a hot artist, that just got off of something. So for this issue, we've got a variant cover by the team from Grit. So we've got, Kevin Maddox is his name, and his colorist Simon Gott. He's there, and they did a variant cover. They did the B cover. I also want to introduce people to people who are up and coming. So I've got Greg Harms did an ink, what's called our artist edition. So what our artist edition, it's a black and white cover that's all done on sketch paper. It folds out, it's a fold up cover, and it's all inked. And they're one of 200s, that you'll get, and it's all very, very unique and very special. It's part of the Kickstarter. It's one of the higher pledge tiers, but they're always really cool. Some people have done some in the past. Frank Uzin, if you know him from, he does a lot of variant covers. He's doing CSROs this month,
Okay.
issue 4. He's done Sync, but he's also, if you on Instagram, the dude just kills it constantly. Has tons of fans, tons of followers. We got Jim O'Reilly, who's very good in the on the Twitterverse. Walter Osley, maybe you heard of him. He did a little thing called Metal Shark Bro. He did a variant cover for me. So yeah, all those are the artists, and all those, because of now add-ons, are actually available. You can get those in the add-on section. We're also going back to print on the main cover. So we're going to release 2 new issue 1 covers, just kind of to finish it off. One of the things when you do comics, our original cover is I don't know if it'll show on screen, but it's floppy. Where now it's like, a Marvel or DC book rather, and now we have the hardcover, the hardback, that you can really feel. I just use a different printer, a better printer, and I want, when you have it on your shelf, to be able to hold the strength of time. 2 new covers, and it's going to be called Prestige Edition. And they're both, not only are they going to be hardcover, they're also going to be UV spotted. So that means you're going to be able to touch it. I think DC did it last year, where you can kind of touch the lettering. It's going to kind of pop out a letter. I think Batman and Catwoman did it.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like that, where
Yeah.
you're going to be able to touch some of the stuff. And there's 2 variants for that on the Kickstarter, which is really cool. You'll be able to pick between the 2 of those. Frank Uzin came back to do a cover, and then we used we did a variation of the famous first cover that we did that's completely different.
Nice. So you said issue 1, people can get it. I'm assuming there's tiers where people can pick up issues 1, 2, 3 to play catch up. Is that an accurate
Yeah, you
statement?
can play catch up. You'll be able to get 1, 2, 3, and 4. And one of the cool things about this is I'm getting to the end of the run. I'm thinking about the trade. So, one of the things I say is covers may vary. So you may get some rarer covers by backing the digital catch up, because it's going to be what I have in load, and I expect to do really, really well. Like this one's a Rich Woodall from Electric Black. He did this cover, so you're going to get various covers from it that are going to be way more valuable than what yourself, because I don't have a lot of A covers left. It's a lot of B covers, when Bs are always my variants with the pros. So there's a lot of really cool things that you'll be able to get. But yeah, there's catch-up tiers. There's also, original art tiers. If you want to buy that grit cover, I own it. I have it. You can purchase it from me from that. And we're going to announce some other as we grow and as we get closer to funding. We have a trade coming out, and there's some new content in the trade. You may be able to get yourself drawn in and things like that. We're going to do some stuff like that. Our goal is going to be a 3,000, which has not been a problem in the past. So it shouldn't be a big deal for this one. But yeah, that's our goal. Finish it out strong.
I think the idea of Kickstarter is just a unique thing. I've had a lot of creators on who utilize Kickstarter, and you almost have that instant kind of interaction. It seems like with people who are supporting your books, like, hey, give us feedback on what you want to see.
Right.
What are some tiers that you would like in the future? And you kind of have that direct line, so you're really being able to market it to your fans,
Right.
which I think is a
Well,
really cool thing.
and I think that that's what people who are new to Kickstarter don't understand. Right. You're used to picking up at the comic store, but the difference between a Kickstarter and a comic store is you're part of the process. You're part of the development process. You're building it, and you're building a fan base. And there is people, you may not know this, but there's people on Kickstarter who will never go into a comic store. They could not tell you what Scout, SourcePoint, or any of those companies are. If they don't do a Kickstarter, they don't know about it. So you build a fan base. And for me, this book has been around for a long time. So going back to the story that I told you when I talked about my history of comics, this book was really supposed to come out in 2007.
Hmm.
In the first issue, and the guy had a baby. He had a baby, which is funny because I also had a baby at kind of around the same time, but he needed to quit. And I got really mad. I got really mad because back in the day when you did comics, if you switched artists, you're dead. You're dead. You can't switch artists in the middle of your run. You just can't. You're dead. And you'll notice that a lot of the canceled Marvel and DC products from 2000 to 2010, if they switched artists, they died. Like that was just the way it was. Because I think we were coming off the artist era of Image, and into the writer era, but we still hadn't accepted that we're full writer yet. We're kind of in that mix. So I canceled it. And my wife, looked at the page and she's like, "You have a full comic here that you haven't printed?" I was like, "Oh yeah, no, that's 2 issues," because I had 40 pages already done. And she's like, "That's ridiculous and stupid." And I was like, "Yeah, it is." So that's when I got into the Kickstarter world. I spent a year learning how to do it before I launched, and figured out how to master it. And now, several years later, we're finally doing the fourth issue and finally finishing it. And for me, this is my first finished work. Well, I guess Cthulhu Invades Oz is my first finished work, but this is my first I wrote and did everything work. Right. So it's all me, and made sure. So I'm super proud of it. I'm super excited for the people who came on the journey. I have a passion for crime comics. I know that it's not the highest seller in the world. I know some people don't dig it. They love their superheroes. I love my superheroes. I love their horror, but I love crime, man. I miss watching Pulp Fiction or Desperado. Those type of movies are just not around anymore. We had the last one we've had is probably Baby Driver,
which
right?
I
Yeah, you don't even know. You don't even know. See, that's how far it's been. My best friend here doesn't even know. He doesn't.
No, I
even
know Baby Driver. I love Baby Driver. I adore Baby Driver.
I guess I never saw Knives Out. Is Knives Out more of a Clue, or is that more of a?
See, that's one I didn't get to see because that was right. See, you said you kind of took a pause with comics, so I took a pause of going to movies when I had kids. So I like everyone's like, I can't go to movies now because of COVID. I'm like, I wasn't going to movies before that, so it hasn't affected me.
You're like, beat you.
I was like, I was ahead of the curve.
But have you seen The Gentleman, the Guy Ritchie film?
I have not.
That movie is probably one of my best crime movies that nobody's ever saw. It is so good, especially if you're a Sons of Anarchy fan, because it's got Hunter, Alice Hunter in there. So what's his name? Jax. I can't think of the guy's name.
Jax.
Charlie
Hunnam.
Charlie Hunnam. Something. Yeah. Yeah, he's the main star of it, and Lock, Stock, and Two Barrel and Snatch are two of my favorites.
I love those.
Yeah, so getting him away from Sherlock Holmes, and he did Aladdin, like getting him away from that and getting him back into crime and doing and remembering why he's good at that. It was so good.
Good crime
I
movie.
recommend. Find it wherever you need to do. Steal it from the internet. I don't care.
I will after this. I will be watching The Gentleman at some point this week because I love everything about what you just said about that.
Yeah, it's better than, in my opinion, it's better than Snatch and
Wow, that's some high praise. So
it's hard to give that praise because he did a lot of bad stuff as well. He did Rock and Roll, a couple other ones.
Yeah, there was a couple on there that they tried to follow that same model, and you're like, it just didn't work.
Right.
But
and he's a weird dude too. A lot of people don't know, but he did a movie called Swept Away. Are you familiar with this?
I'm not familiar with that one.
So here's the thing: Guy Ritchie was married to Madonna.
I was gonna say, is that the Madonna, the Desert Island one?
Yes.
That's why I'm not familiar with it.
Literally, it's literally a movie where he treats his wife like shit. It's very awkward, very weird. It's probably why they got a divorce. Is just my assumption. But yeah, it's a weird flick. Guy Ritchie does a lot of weird things. Even in Britain there's a two guy Lock, Stock, Two Barrels TV show that has like 8 episodes. I have a bootleg if you want to talk.
We'll talk after.
Well, we got British fans. Send us that stuff.
That's right.
Send us links.
That's fantastic. Like and I think that's what I appreciated about Broke Down for Dead Bodies. Like you get that crime. Because there's always, I feel like a lot of times I've been reading comics, and like you said, there's always this there's this slight twist where they take a story that it's like, this is, and then there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I don't want people to walk away saying like, oh, I knocked this, or they always walk away with it where it's like, oh, this is a crime story. And then all of a sudden there's at the end, in the last panel, you see like, it's a supernatural element to it. And I'm like, that's cool. But sometimes I just want a crime story. I want a good feel. So that's why I think I resonated with the story when I first started reading it. And I think people will, because there is a place for it of just like a good straight up crime storytelling issue, and I think that's what people will be drawn towards.
Well, and I think I did it and I did it intentionally. Like it's not drawn in a noir way.
Right.
It's drawn in it's semi-anime, but it's kind of weird anime American weird kind of vibe to it. I liked it. I did it in purpose because I really wanted to show crime in the light. I wanted to show it a little bit brighter, a little bit different, but you could definitely tell it's crime in the language, and the way my strength is my dialogue. That's just what I'm good at. So adding all those elements together really made it have a unique feel, and that's why I was really proud of it because it's not like a typical crime book that you pick up off the shelf. You have the dark grays or the black and whites or the very minimalistic color. They're all like copying Dick Tracy. Well, Dick Tracy hasn't been relevant for years. Stop it.
You curb your tongue, son. You curb your tongue. You're talking to the biggest Dick Tracy fan this side of the world. Chester Gold is a god in this house, so you watch yourself. You tread lightly.
I will. I will. I will. I will. I was nervous saying it, to be honest.
But I
But
mean, it's
yeah,
true. I wish it wasn't true. I mean, we haven't had anything since the 1990s, and I know they even tried to revamp that comic, and they tried to bring it into the light. But I mean, there is a time and place for it, and I think we haven't had that, so I appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and everyone does it in a dark way. I mean, no one's going to be Sin City, right? Sin
Right.
City was such unique. He knows exactly how much of that Marvel DC costuming that you need to put into those stories to attract that audience, but still tell a crime story. He's really good at that, especially when you get to, Marv or, any of the chicks, or
Right.
that even that yellow bastard is the bright yellow colors on that, but I'm not Frank Miller. So,
Which is not a bad thing. So,
I mean, currently back then I would take it any day of the week.
oh man. So, gang, again, if you have not picked up this series, if you haven't picked up Cthulhu, check out these links below. Travis, I hesitate to even ask because you've already shared so much. Like, I mean, I'm assuming what you're working on right now, you're promoting your Kickstarter for Broke Down
Right.
Four Dead Bodies. You're in the process of your next Cthulhu. Do you have other stuff in the works right now, or is all your focus being put into Cthulhu in Wonderland?
No, no, no. So Broke Down for Dead Bodies is March. In April, I'm going to launch Voodoo Nations 2. So we didn't talk about Voodoo Nation, but Voodoo Nations is a horror book. It's about two missionaries that go to Brazil. They think they kind of got it all together, and then they meet a voodoo priest that kind of messes up their world, messes up their marriage, and really messes all that stuff up. It's kind of a religious horror book. Take kind of like The Exorcist a little bit, but done in more of a Negan type of way. So imagine if Negan was super religious. It's kind of weird. But that's a world treading adventure. So we started in Brazil. The second issue takes place in New Orleans. Third is in Mexico, and then we go back to Brazil, to build the whole arc. So they issue 2 for that. I have a book called Expired that's coming out the month after that, which is in May. Expired is a book that is about a world where everything is bought by your breath. You're allowed so many breaths per life based on where you were born, and basically that's how you put the whole economic system because they're on 7 islands. That's it. The whole world is water and 7 islands, so they don't have enough oxygen if they don't kill people. And then this group of adventurers want to break that system because obviously, if anything's like that, there's some corruption. Some people need to use less of it. So it's kind of a little fantasy slash sci-fi little world. That's a 4-issue mini. That's kind of cool. I just canceled a book today, so that's sad and good. I read Nocturna. I had a book that was very similar to Nocturna, and it's not that you can't do a like lights out book, pitch black, and a ton of stuff.
Right.
His visuals that he was doing with the lights and Christmas lights on people, like those were my cool visuals, and he took them. So until I figure out a way to replace the cool visuals that I were planning, that book is on hold. And I started production of it and everything. So, but that's what's cool about comics is if my idea is similar to Scott Snyder's, I'm in the right direction, right? I'm going in the right
Right, you're on the right track for sure.
right. So yeah, I've got that. I've got a book called Dog Days coming out that is being shopped around. It was a quick starter that I finished. I'll be selling that probably. It may not be a Kickstarter, maybe just something I sell, but that's an original graphic novel. It's about anamorphic animals in kind of crime. So it's gritty crime, anamorphic animals with some of the best art and most graphic art you've ever seen. Zero furries though. Zero furries. And then I'm in a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm in, a couple of anthologies, Tales of Terra Prime, which is the Loggerhead. If you guys are familiar with Scout, I'm in a story that's in that with a few people that's coming out in April. So I've got tons of stuff in the work. They consider me a lot of people joke that I'm the hardest working indie guy because I do. I'll take any job and I want to build more work. I want to get to that next level and try to figure it out and try to master this and, see what I can make of it. I'm not, this isn't a hobby for me. This is what I want to do for a career. So I got to figure it out. And I've got to figure out not just where I'm at and how do I get to that next level. But it's really expensive. Like if you really want to do it right, you have to have 3 issues in the can before you even submit. So that's thousands of dollars put out there, and then they're not going to pay you back until after it's solicited. In solicitations, 2 months, and then they have to get paid. So you're talking a year and a half before you even get your first paycheck after out thousands. It's a lot of money versus doing something like on Kickstarter where I can get that return faster and trying to figure that out. And then I'm trying to master it. I'm currently writing a one shot uh, I'm getting into art that's 100% for pitching. I'm sending it to Scout, sending it to SourcePoint to allow them to kind of test my waters to get over the published stuff because they want my work. It's just I'm like, yeah, but I can't afford it with all the other projects.
Right. Like, man, we could have had literally another 3 hours of a
Right.
show. So I'm definitely gonna have you back on in April or May when you got your other stuff dropping because, like you said, we didn't even touch on Voodoo Nation and your other one was it expired? Is that
Inspired? Yeah. Not a
that
lot of
sounds
people.
fantastic.
Yeah. And what's cool about it too is this is the first time in my life all these things are done. Because of Cthulhu Invades Oz, like I said, it added an extra 4 months. Like all my projects are done. I just need to fund them and get them printed, because it's part funding. It's not that I need to fund. I could probably, send it somewhere and print it and sell it on myself. But Kickstarter is it's not about the funding. It's about, hey, here's my store. Like, come and be part of my store. Here, come pick it up. Here's where it is.
Well, because yeah, you have on Kickstarter, you built like we said, you build that relationship. I mean,
Right.
how often books get funded to have sometimes, and then they go to a shelf. But if you don't have that relationship, or you have those dialogues of this is what
Right.
it is, someone might not ever pick it up. But to
Right.
be able to say, hey, this is something that I believe in, I think you will. You're almost skipping that having them to have to pull it from the shelves because you're putting it right in front of their face and saying, hey, on the internet, like read it.
Yeah, I mean, I do really well, unlike other stuff. I mean, I'm in stores. I love brick and mortar stores. I'm in 21 stores with my comics, which is really, really good compared to other Kickstarter people. Because other Kickstarter, they're like, I'm in like 2, and they're the store that's right down my house. But I sell retail exclusives. I do all the stuff that the big publishers do, even though I'm just a little guy. I mean, that's just because I understand and love the business. I love it, and I do it to sell to them. Like, all right, cool. I don't just want to sell you my book. I'm going to help you sell it, right? Do you need me? Do you have a live show? Do you have an auction? Let me be on it. Let me get it. What can I make this book special so that it's special to your audience? Because I think it's good. Let's make that partnership. And that's what I love about Kickstarter is because they invest it. Even now they just added an option where people can give me additional funds. And like when I was going to send out all these Cthulhu Invades Oz, like people were like, here's $10, here's 20. A guy gave me $150. I was like, what do I give you? I don't know what to give you. You just randomly decided I was worth an extra $150, I mean, I've achieved all my goals. When I wanted to write comics, my whole goal was I wanted to write a comic and have someone who didn't know me buy it. That was my whole goal. And that happened day one, right? I didn't know you, and you bought my book. And what does that look like? And how do I get that to not only are you going to buy my stuff, like you're excited about my stuff, you become a fan and build that relationship. And I want to build that, and when I look at people who I admire in the business, watching Brian Michael Bendis come up, regardless of what you may think of his work, the dude has had the same forum and the same fan base and communicated with that fan base since day one. I used to be in that before I was mad at him for selling out for Marvel, even though I was a Marvel mark. I was mad at him. But when I was working at McDonald's when I was 17 years old, I sent him Monopoly, like the hash brown Monopoly things. I sent him a rack of it, like to his mailbox, because I had that relationship with him and that fan. And I love having a relationship with you and with the guys from the burrito, because I build that relationship because I not only do I want, I get to call the burrito, but I don't just want to have fun. I want you to ask me, hey, what are you reading? What am I reading? And I want you guys to know that I actually give a shit about comics, because a lot of the people who are writing, and I'm not trying to throw shade, but a lot of people who are writing comics who are in the indie scene, if you ask them what they read, they'll say, oh, I used to read, or they'll talk about something that's not relevant right now. And that's not me. I'm there every week at your comic store reading the same things that you guys are. And I want to talk about them. Let's talk about them. Let's actually read comics instead of just talking about them or using it to get clicks. I hate that. It's doing that and finding and being passionate about this business and what it is, because those are the writers that resonate. The reason why I love Donny Cates so much is, you read Venom, that guy loved and respected that character, saw little holes and built on that, and made sure, even though Planet of the Cenobites and all that stuff, you could ignore that shit because it's garbage. He didn't. He was like, all right, I guess I'll write my way into here and weave it into all this stuff, because it's someone who cares about this industry and doesn't just want to do it. Where you get someone like, again, I'll throw Bendis under the bus, where Bendis picked and choose when he liked continuity.
And I think people watching this and reading that, they can feel that, they can sense that from you. And I think that's what makes it legit. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate you taking the time to talk about that with me. So, what's the best way for people to kind of follow along and stay in contact with you?
Sure. BrokeDown4deadbodies.com is the website for the comic. If you want to go directly to the Kickstarter, it's going to be BrokeDownComics.com. That'll link you directly to the Kickstarter. You can see all the stuff and the links below and all that jazz. You can find me on Facebook or on Twitter and Instagram at Jester Lou. I need to change that profile, but Jester Lou, Lou. But you can find me over there, and I'll be tagging, or Bearded shares my and retweets my stuff, and I retweet his. You find it that way.
Yeah.
Follow Beard, and eventually you'll find me.
You'll find it through our for our love for each other.
Right, through our network, and loving others. You may get distracted. You may find a Brian Hawkins or some of these other wonderful guys out there are a poser.
Yeah.
But just don't trust Cole. So I'm at Cole. Don't trust that guy.
Nope.
It used to be don't trust Todd, but I realized that Cole is the weak link. He just plays the others against him. He's a smart dude.
So, Travis, before I let you go, I got to ask you, I always like to end my interviews with this. What is your perfect burrito? I'm just, Jake, I love you guys.
What's your perfect beard oil?
We bust them, but man, if you guys don't know, we're talking about our boys over at the Comic Burritos. They're good dudes. Right. So check them out. They do great interviews and things like that as well. But Travis, thank you again so much for just taking some time to talk about your books and talk about comics with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That being said, hopefully you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.
Peace. Nerd out.